So I'm going to just draw a line right here that represents kind of the length. And it is easiest to draw something that's the same size. Now I'm using this dark paper instead of white paper because the highlights are going to look a lot better on it with this pen and with my white charcoal pen. Yeah. And let's see, what else am I using? I'm also going to use a white charcoal. Probably be better if it was sharpened, and a blender, and this cool eraser, which can get a lot of details, but we'll go over that. So anyway, I'm going to draw a lot darker than you should so that you can see this, especially on this darker paper. So I'm not going to do a lot of erasing. I'm going to try to get the whole lines down first. Yeah, thanks for joining live. And do tell me if you've seen a shark before in the wild or at an aquarium. I used to work at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So first I'm going to do this shape that's kind of like a submarine, because just like submarines, sharks need to be hydrodynamic. And then we want to, well, you can do this in any order you want, but let's add that tail. And a lot of sharks have what's called a heterocercal tail, meaning the top part is larger than the bottom part. Like a really good example is the thresher shark, which has a super, super long tail, almost as long as its body. So we're just going to get that penciled in there. And then we're going to add the other fins. So all fishes have different numbers of fins and they're different shapes, but this shark has 2 fins on the top. They're called dorsal fins, and each species of shark kind of has different shapes to them slightly. And their top fin, kind of all of their fins actually, has a little like divot out of it, a little free end right there, which you probably can't see very well until I darken that. So there's this free end here that's kind of flippy flapping in the water. Okay, so that's their first dorsal fin. And then there's a second dorsal fin right here, and that's smaller. And it still has a little free end there. Now go ahead, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. That's one reason I do these things live, is so that we can interact, and it'll help me from feeling lonely. Okay, so there's those fins. And then there's also another fin underneath the second dorsal. And so let me darken this up a little bit better so we know exactly where we're at. And so that fin is a little bit behind and a little bit larger, and it also has a free end. So each of these fins helps the fish swim in a different way, either swimming kind of going back and forth, left to right, or helping it not roll, or helping it turn to the left or the right. And then so all the fins we've drawn so far are just single, but this next set of fins, those are called the pelvic fins, and there's actually 2 of them. And I guess I could draw that second one that you can see a little bit. Okay. And that also has a little bit of a free end. And if this was a male shark, they would have these elongated into what's called claspers, which are what they mate with. They do have internal fertilization. Okay, and then if we were going to firm up the tail a little bit better, It's pretty skinny here. And then it comes up and it's the wider at the top. And it has this little thing that looks like kind of a cut out of it. It's called a subterminal notch. Subterminal notch. And so that looks like it's been kind of cut a little bit. And then the lower part, again, is smaller than the upper part, which is true in most sharks compared to most fish, which have the upper and the lower part the same. And then let's go to the front of the fish and let's actually finish up his head. It kind of looks weird that we haven't done his head. So let's get that head in there. They have a pretty blunt snout. And we'll have his mouth kind of open a bit. Not like he's trying to eat you or anything, but just open a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to let you catch up in a minute when I finish this, and I'll talk a little bit about this shark. But next we want to add this pectoral fin, and it's kind of arranged in front of this dorsal fin and right behind the gills. And we could add the gills. And well, let's get that eye in there. Now the eye is going to be kind of above the mouth there. And yeah. And so then behind that are the gills. They also have another little circle called a spiracle, which we can't really see here. They're going to have 5 gills. And the last one is going to be kind of right on top of where we put the pectoral fin. And that pectoral fin's sort of a big triangle. There we go. So now I'm going to erase some extra lines here. I'm going to use this pencil. That's actually a sharpenable eraser. Isn't that cool? So I'm just going to clean up my outside lines a bit. Although I'm going to be using charcoal and it is kind of messy. So I'll be doing some more erasing later. But I just want to clean up a little bit and let you catch up while I share a few really cool facts about this shark. So this is the tiger shark, and he or she, they're some of the fiercest predators in the ocean. So they are they're called the garbage disposals of the sea because they eat just about anything. And they are actually responsible for more human attacks than any other shark, but still it's very, very minute. But they will kind of eat anything. They're known to eat everything from crustaceans and octopus, sea snakes, seals, dolphins, other sharks, and even their stomachs have been seen with parts of horses and goats and pigs and rats because they do come close to the ocean's edge. And maybe might be another reason why they are known to attack humans, because they're found more frequently in shallow waters and bays and estuaries than other sharks. So they're just going to be in the same proximity with humans compared to other species of sharks. And another reason I've chosen them is they are global. They're off all of our coasts around the world, mainly in the subtropics and tropics, but very widespread. And they're also super large and intimidating looking. I'm going to flatten his head a little bit here. So I'm going to let you kind of catch up while I'm sharing some facts before I start shading. And so they're super intimidating. They get really big. In fact, they're the fourth largest shark in the ocean, behind the whale shark, the basking shark, and the great white shark. And females are larger than males, and they get over 16 feet long. So, really formidable predators of the oceans. Now, do ask questions. That's the wonderful thing about being here live. I know there's some live viewers. I see you, so don't be shy. Please ask some questions. And so, even though they are widespread and they are known to attack humans sometimes. In fact, the most famous attack of a tiger shark was a tiger shark attacked a famous woman surfer named Bethany Hamilton, and actually bit her arm off, but she's still surfing. But that was probably one of the most famous attacks. But anyway, I want you to realize that sharks are endangered worldwide because of overfishing. And that's why I'm passionate about teaching people about sharks, because they are endangered. They're not only hunted for their flesh and for sport, and this one for its skin as well, because it's got these amazing tiger patterns, and that's why they're called the tiger shark. But they're also hunted for their fins. Many of them are killed, and just their fins are cut off, and their dead bodies are thrown back in the water because it's an Asian delicacy. So that's just a tragedy. And so that's why I'm really dedicated to teaching people about sharks, and promoting their conservation. So I hope you've got your parts now so we can move on. So let's review a little bit about its shape here. So we've got this pretty blunt snout with an eye here, and the spiracle would be about right here. It's actually a rudimentary gill, but we don't really see it. And then their mouth, and of course, if it was open, we'd see those big teeth. And tiger sharks actually have a really interesting shape of their tooth. If you saw it as a fossil or laying on the beach somewhere, you would know what it was, because it's shaped kind of an arch like this, and then it kind of goes like this and kind of goes like that. It's kind of a really interesting shape. So then they have 5 gill slits, and those help them breathe, of course. And then they have all the fins we talked about. And then what you can't see is their really interesting sensory system. They have these dots on the front of their face called the ampullae of Lorenzini, and that helps them to sense electrical fields of their prey. And then they also have a lateral line, which kind of goes down the middle, which you can't really see. But you can see there's going to be this ledge, kind of a ridge right here. And then there's this keel that's right here as well. And it kind of comes out. If you were looking at the shark from the top, you would see that there's this little ridge. And it comes up kind of into the tail, where the kind of cartilaginous backbone goes. And you can see some shadow of it kind of there. Okay, so now that we talked about the whole shark and we went over his fins, the 2 pairs of dorsal fins, or the 2 single dorsal fins, the paired pectoral fin, which I guess we could, as long as we're pairing the other fin, we might as well pair this one too. So we'll just put a little shadow there for the other fin. And then paired pelvic fins, and then a single anal fin. And that's named for their anus, which is right in front. And then their big tail. Okie dokie. So now we're going to start the really fun part. So again, if you don't have these materials, that's fine. You can just shade your shark with whatever you have. All the concepts are the same. So, we first want to just think about where the sun's coming from. And I always like to pretend that the sun is coming from the upper left and going to be lighting the top of shark because it would be in the sun. Like I said, they are found in shallow water, although they can dive to over 1,000 feet deep, but they're often found in shallow, clear tropical waters. So there would be some highlights on their back here. And then they're a big barrel shape. So it's going to be more shaded down below. Although you'll notice that the bottom of them is white. And we'll be adding that later with our white charcoal pencil. And again, that's why I've used this special paper because it can show. In fact, I'll have this other paper here. This is a tan version. So it comes in tan or in gray. You can get papers in a lot of different colors to kind of match the kind of animal you're drawing. So I like these toned papers because you can really see the highlights as opposed to if this was just a white piece of paper. And so first we will shade it to have kind of the general highlights and shadows. And then showing the white belly. And then last thing, we will add some of these cool tiger-like patterns. And these are more pronounced in the juveniles than the adults, kind of like a baby fawn, a baby deer has those stripes and spots, and it helps to camouflage them. And that might be the same reason is the babies need to be camouflaged. And this shark has a really interesting way of giving birth. It doesn't give birth to eggs like a frog might. It actually gives live birth of live pups, and a baby shark is called a pup. And the pups are born out of the female, of course, from an area right here. And the pups can be up to 2 feet long. And as soon as they're born, they have to start fending for themselves. All righty. So anyway, now comes the fun, messy part. And so I'm not going to be too concerned with making a mess. And again, you might just have a regular pencil. So you will just be following kind of the same ideas of where light and shadow is. But I'm just using the pencil because charcoal pencils are really fun. They're really easy to shade a big area quickly. And yeah, they're fun to lift out. But most people would just draw with their pencil, right? But there's a difference. And I made a little example here. When you draw, you might not be able to see it too well on the monitor. But when you draw, it's kind of bumpy looking, even if you smooth it with the blending stop. But if you paint, dry brush, paint with it. Now, where'd my brush go? It's right here. Oh, so here we go. If you use a brush to brush the charcoal on, it's going to be a lot smoother than this. And it might not show up on the video, but it for sure shows up in real life. And so what I do is I will take a charcoal pencil like this, and I'll use an extra soft one, or you can use the kind of charcoal that doesn't have a wooden lead to it. I mean, not a wooden lead, a holder, what we call like vine charcoal or willow vine charcoal. But I'm just going to make a little pile. I'm going to pulverize. And I don't want to pulverize the wooden part. I just want to pulverize the charcoal. So this is very similar to the charcoal that might be, at the beach, at your beach barbecue. Okie dokie. So now comes the super fun part. And again, if you're going to shadow, you can just use a pencil or whatever you have. The concepts of how light hits a three-dimensional object is all the same. But I love teaching people these kind of unique methods. And actually tomorrow I'm leading a live class, a whole week I'm teaching of shark camp for some local kids here in Medford, Oregon. So that's why I thought I would share this with you. And they're going to love this. I'm sure they've never done this before. So I have a paintbrush, and the kind of paintbrush you use really depends. You just have to practice, but it helps if it's a little bit of a stiffer brush. And I like these flat brushes, and make sure it's dry. And it also helps if it's never been used before with wet material or paint if it's brand new. So this is a brand new one. It's a cheap one I got from Michael's, but I dip it in this stuff here. And again, tell me in the chat box. That's why I go live. Is I love to be able to connect with people, answer your questions. So tell me if you have any questions about sharks or about my methods. I'll answer them right away here while I'm painting. So this is going to go on pretty dark, and I'm just going to be lightening it later. And I'm going to leave the bottom of the shark, because the bottom of the shark is unpigmented. And so we're going to lighten this later, but I just want to get a first layer of sort of a medium value. And so it's just super fun to get this on. And it'll be a little messy. You don't want to do this where there's any draft, anybody opening or closing doors, because this can blow away really easily. So I'm just trying to get, I see there's a few people live, and again, don't be shy. I'd love to have you say hello. I'd like to know who's watching. Sometimes I do these events just live on YouTube or Facebook, but today's event was where you sign up, as you know, else you wouldn't be here. And I just do that sometimes because when you have to sign up, then the StreamYard app will send you the reminder, so you'll know it's really happening, and then I'll know who attended. Also, remember that there was this downloadable image you could download and print if you want. And just think of the kids in your life. Maybe you have kids or grandkids. Maybe you even have great grandkids. And kids are just fascinated by sharks, especially kids about the age that I'm going to be teaching tomorrow, like in the 6 years to 12-year range. And so if you download that free handout I provided and, do that with kids in your life, maybe you've got some picnic coming up, or maybe you're babysitting the grandkids and don't know what to do with them. You can print as many of those handouts as you want. And now that you know how to draw them and know about the parts of the shark, you could do that with them. Okay, so this is the end of the part where I painted on. So I'm going to get rid of that so I don't make a mess. And if you're here because you are on my mailing list, you would have seen that I have a brand new course on sharks in celebration of Discovery Channel's Shark Week. And that course includes a whole bunch of different handouts, including this handout, which again is really fun if you've got kids or grandkids that really want to learn the names of the parts. So there's lots of very helpful downloadable handouts in that course. And it's only $25. Okay, so So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to get an overall medium value that I can add more highlights and darks to. But you see how nice and smooth this went on compared to if I was drawing with my pencil, which actually also takes longer. And I'm not going to worry that I've got mess here. If I tried to blow this off, with my mouth, a little bit of blowing, like blowing out a candle, it could get water droplets on my painting, and I don't want to do that. So now I actually might help me to see the full range of values. I might add the white underbelly now. So a lot of fish, sharks and regular fish as well, have this lighter edge. Actually, I need to erase some of this here. And that lighter bottom part is unpigmented. And it's not as even as is shown here in this drawing. Because again, this isn't a real shark. It's a drawing just so that you can see all the parts better. But this is called counter shading. And it's the concept. Actually, just a sec. I do like to have a dry brush with me so that I can clean up a little bit without blowing on it. You got to resist wanting to blow on it. Okay, so a lot of fish, both sharks and regular bony fish, have this white part underneath. And that's called counter shading, where the bottom is light and the top is dark. And that helps them to camouflage themselves underwater. So you can imagine that if they are hunting and they're swimming kind of near the surface, if there's a prey item below them, if they're looking up, helps a little bit to camouflage the shark against the lighter sky because they're light underneath. And just the opposite, if a predator was looking at the shark from above, and they do have predators like larger sharks when they're babies and orcas, then the dark part would blend in with the depth of the ocean. All righty, so there we got that. So that's the bottom of the belly is white. And that can be blended as well if I wanted to, although I don't have a clean edge to my blender. But you can kind of do it with your hand as well a little bit. I should have a clean blender. You guys are awfully quiet. Usually I have people commenting in the chat box. So I can also blend the rest of this if I just want to get it really nice and smooth. And I'm kind of ignoring the eyes and the gills and everything. I'm just getting this first layer. Oops, we forgot to add the bottom fins here. And I can actually just draw. I've got an ant on my table. I can actually just draw with my blending stomp, actually. Like that. Okay. So that's just getting us that first layer. And if you stopped right here, it wouldn't be bad, but the next part is the really magical part. Okay. That's the magical part. Okay. So now he just looks flat right here, he or she. So I do want to add a bit more of shadowing, and we're still not doing these tiger stripes at all yet. That's the very last. So I do want to add a little bit more along his bottom edge here. And again, I am using this charcoal that I pulverized. So imagine him being kind of submarine shaped. And the center of the submarine is going to be the most shadowed because the light can come around the snout and the tail better than it can come around the middle. And even a little bit of the center white part will be a little less obvious. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. No one is commenting today. You guys are quiet. I'm lonely. Talk to me. So you always try to get the three-dimensional form before you get any textures or patterns, okay? Get the three-dimensional form, get the highlights, shadows, all righty. Now, I'm going to start getting some details, and let's see. What do we have here? What do we have here? Just a sec. Oh, this is one of my favorite pencils. This is the Wolf's Carbon pencil. That's really nice. I think I'm going to use a harder pencil now. So these do come in harder and softer. Because I'm going to do a little bit finer details here. And I'm leaving the eye to the very last because that's going to be a very specific highlight and shadow in the eye. Okay, so now I'm going to just be adding a few details. So one thing you notice is there's this ridge, and this ridge kind of goes from the point of the nose, sort of above where the eye is going to be, and along where the top of the gills are. And it's going to be more shadowed under that. And we actually want to draw our gills in too. We've got, see, one that's right on top. How's that light, you guys? Let me see. There we go. Now, since this is a really dark object, hopefully you'll be able to see the drawing a little bit better. So we're going to put 5 gill slits in. There we go. Okay. So again, we're just adding some shadows. There's this shadow, and then that shadow kind of continues over here. This is what we call a keel. And I mentioned this before, that it's sort of a ridge that sticks out, and then it continues up in the middle of the top part of the tail, because their cartilaginous backbone is going along that area and then ending up here. And then it's kind of shadowed here. Okay. Okay. And then I'll also add a couple more shadows. The sun is going to be blocked by this fin. So I'm going to add a little bit of shadow under the fin. And then also, I might try to add a little bit more shadow in the center here to really help it look big and fat and three-dimensional. And then the pectoral fin, it's going to be shaded a little bit more in the back than the front because it's angled down. I don't know if you can tell right now, but it's kind of angled like this. So the sun is hitting the leading edge more. Okay. So then I will blend those areas a bit more. So drawing, is a really iterative process. And that's why I love it. It's a little bit more forgiving than a lot of painting techniques. So iterative in that you can really go back and forth, especially with charcoals. So if you get too light or if you get too dark, you can always fix it. I'm going to make his fin a little bit longer. You see, you can fix it like that. So it's starting to look a bit more real. This takes a while. And again, a lot of people might just stop right here and they wouldn't be very happy, but that's because they haven't gone far enough. Okay. Now I'm going to start adding these tiger stripes. And so I can do that a few different ways. I could either draw them in with my charcoal. Let me show you. I could either draw them in like that with the charcoal, or I could lift some of that charcoal that I already put on with my eraser. And you see how that gives really different look. So I think I'm going to use the more subtle look of erasing. And I'm also going to use that really subtle look to give some highlights to these gills. You see how that worked? So pretty soft highlights. Okay. And then these tiger patterns, they're kind of like you just kind of gotta, I'm using the side of my eraser and just kind of looking here. And it doesn't have to be exact because, you know, every shark is going to be a little bit different. So I'm just kind of doing some squiggly lines back and forth. And those are going to be most obvious on the top of the shark because, again, there's this ridge about halfway down the shark, which makes him really rounded, and you're going to get a lot more light at the top. And so, you know, I actually might even get a little bolder and use this charcoal to actually draw some of those in. And again, we're thinking about where the light is coming from. So we're going to have some more highlights kind of on this upper part of the shark where the sun is shining. Because again, these guys can live, well, they migrate. In fact, they migrate really long distances, kind of like birds do. And we don't necessarily exactly know where they go, but they've been tagged and seen all over the place. We don't know why, probably for breeding purposes or trying to find better food. Okay, how does that look? So I have a hard time telling what this looks like to you guys compared to what it looks like to me. But so now I've got some of those squiggly lines that are the tiger stripes. And I've got some, I could give a little bit of highlight there. And there's also going to be a bit of a highlight. And I think I'll make it softer again. I'm going to highlight above this ridge. There's this ridge that goes. And again, I think I'll lighten this a bit. Okay. And then there's this ridge back here, the keel. And so I shadowed the bottom of it, and now I'm going to highlight the top of it. See, and then again, I could switch if I want to add a little bit of the more obvious. But you want to just be kind of careful. Okay. Now let's see what else. I think I want to add a bit more white. And this white doesn't have to be as exact. It's kind of, in real sharks I've looked at, it's kind of really more squiggly where that black melanin pigment is. So I'm just trying to make this a bit more squiggly. And again, a bit lighter on the skinnier ends of the shark because, again, the sun is going to be able to reach that part more, and the sun's going to be more obvious on the top of the snout than on the bottom of the snout. So we're starting to really get somewhere here, aren't we? I also think that I want to make him a little bit less perfect. The ones I've seen swimming, some of them have some pretty big scars on them, or their fins are a little bit tattered. So I might just kind of make a little bit, just like really subtle, imperfections. And just like as when humans get older, we get lines on our faces and things, we're not perfect, but that just proves that we've had a rich and interesting life. Okay. And yeah. Okay. And I think actually I need to make these other fins, the fin that's in the back, a little bit darker so it goes behind because those values were too similar. So now hopefully I've darkened that up a bit so it separates the two fins. Now, another thing that's going to separate the two fins, again, is to add some highlights on the edge of the fin. And so we actually have a little highlight on the top of the head. We have some highlights on the front. And then a highlight that separates this pectoral fin from its body, and a highlight on the edge that visually separates the front pectoral fin from the other fin. This is starting to look a lot more real, right? And maybe a tiny bit there. And we want a bit more of a highlight here. Now, let's see. I need a little bit bolder. Let's see. I think this value is a little bit too similar to this. I'm going to just darken this up. And you always want to look at structures that are next to each other and make sure they have a different value so that they don't all blend together. So I'm just being a little bit bolder with my shadowing, again, to make him look really big and fat. This is a really beefy shark. Don't worry, we won't forget the eye. That's going to be our pièce de résistance. And blending that a bit. And you would think some of these techniques look really hard and advanced and that only adults could do them, but I'm going to be doing these tomorrow with 8 to 12-year-olds. And I have had some kids that can do amazing work at that age. So I really encourage you, if you've got kiddos in your life and they're into Discovery Channel Shark Week, doing some fun shark drawing with them. And let's see, what else? So I want to just... Yeah, you could play with this forever. But I try to make these only an hour long, these events. Okay, let's see. How are we doing here? Are we ready for the eye? So let me see. I really haven't given the tail. The tail does have some more shadowing behind this end of the vertebral column and back here as well. Needed to add a bit of that. I actually think I needed to add a little bit more highlight here. And soften that highlight. That was a little bit in the wrong place, I think. Okay. I like to end up with having a drawing not really see the original outline. Okay, what do you think of our eye? We've got to get that eye in. And so, and also they have nostrils. It's not really obvious in this picture, but I'm going to draw this little kind of like half circle. And that's where their nostrils are. Remember, they have incredible sense of smell. They have incredible sense of sensing electrical impulses with their ampullae of Lorenzini, um, and uh, and then their lateral line that goes along the edge here. So a few more details. I'm going to add some shadow along the mouth. Oops, I'm making him frown now. I didn't want to do that. He's not a sad shark. Anyway. So, no questions so far, huh? You guys are too busy drawing? Okay. That's looking pretty cool. Okay. I just really go around the edge and I'm trying to get just a few more details. So yeah, really iterative process, just kind of going back and forth. And, in this case, we're looking at a photograph, but I really suggest, if you can, looking at some videos online of tiger sharks after we're done here. And to really try to see the details. Okay, we're going to attack that eye now, and I'm going to use a pen. I think I'll use this nice big fat permanent ink pen, and I'm going to put it. Now, sharks have this big third eyelid called a nictitating membrane, which is like a white eyelid that totally will cover their eye when they're attacking something. But they also have just a lighter eye. Oh wait, what am I doing? Now I'm going to use this pen, the super sharp pen, and I'm going to get that white. And there might be a little white in the center too, for a highlight. That's looking cool. Okay, and so, I'm just going to do a few last things that are just going to really add some details. I think I'll just. And these don't like play very well with charcoal. They don't like to mix. But I just want to really emphasize some of these edges just really subtly. As remember, we have 3 ways that I've shown you of adding light. You can either add the Uniposca pen or some other pen that's opaque white. You can use charcoal white pencil, or you can lighten just by erasing. And so each of those are going to be a little bit different in terms of how obvious they are. So you don't want to just go nuts. Just like, when you're choosing clothes out of the, when you're going to get dressed, you're not going to put every pattern and every color and texture on, right? You're just going to emphasize a few areas. And I still think I messed up this shadow. There's only this one highlight. There's only this one highlight. And so the more you understand what's going on underneath, so what happens down here, I wasn't sure about, is we've got this keel, which is this ridge. And then that highlight kind of continues up into the top of the tail. And then there's a little bit of a ridge down here too. It'll catch some light. I think that's a little bit better. But the more you look at sharks in videos, especially, or in real life. So lastly, I will just go like that. Okay, so I really thank the live viewers, and I hope you're enjoying drawing along, or if you haven't drawn yet, you can gather the materials and finish your drawing later on. Again, the materials we used was a graphite mechanical pencil, a charcoal pencil that we pulverized with some sandpaper, and then we painted with it with this. Oh, wait, you can't see all these things. Wait, I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. Then I painted it on, and then I used a harder charcoal pencil that's just darker and stays sharp longer for some of those details. And then we had 3 different ways that we added patterns and highlights using the white charcoal pencil, using our eraser pencil, and an opaque pen like this Uniposca pen. Okay, I don't want to ruin this. Now, if you wanted to, oops, see, I messed it up. So if you wanted to, you could always go in also with a pen. And the very last thing, of course, is you could clean up your edges, like I just made a mess here. And so there we go. So you could always, the very last thing, clean up your edges. And let me get rid of this so we can just appreciate our sharky here. And sometimes it's good to get rid of that reference eventually, and then just kind of have something standing, on its own merits, and kind of think about it a little bit more. We have 2 more minutes left because I don't like to go over. So I just want to get a little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more patterns. A little bit darker, a little bit more 3 dimensions. And yeah, you might not be able to see this, but I can. Okay, and maybe a little bit sizing his edges there. Okay, I better stop because I have the I tend to keep going and going and going with something. So, anyway, I hope you can tell that he's swimming, or he or she is swimming in shallower water, kind of like we have in the picture behind us. And there's some sunlight illuminating the top of his snout and the top where those tiger stripes kind of are. And that, yeah, see, I just want to just keep going. I just want to have fun. Just want to keep going. It's easy. It's easy to overwork something. Um, but yeah, thanks for hanging out with me today and helping me make this demonstration that I'm actually going to use tomorrow for my week-long kids summer camp. But I hope if you have kids or grandkids, or if you're an educator, you share this workshop with them, because kids and adults of all ages really love sharks or are fascinated by sharks, especially top predators like this tiger shark. And again, I'm so passionate about talking about sharks, especially during the annual Shark Week. Just to remind you that even though you hear about all this news of sharks biting people, that we as a human species kill over 100 million sharks every single year. Either on purpose or for food, for their livers, for their skin, for sport, for their fins, or just as by accident in bycatch, and from pollution and global warming. So sharks really need some of our love and understanding. And just like all dangerous animals and plants in nature, there's a reason they're dangerous, is because they're trying to protect themselves. So you just have to have common sense in the water. And if you're lucky enough to ever swim with a shark, like I have been with hammerhead sharks in the Galapagos Islands, you'll really appreciate their beauty as well as their vulnerability. So most of you watching probably learned about this from my email, and I'd love it if you replied to that email and shared your sketch with me. And if you have any other questions, remember, I do have a full course on sharks. And oh, I don't know if I can find that right now. I'm trying to find that link in case you don't have that. Let's see. No. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Uh, I, no, that's the wrong one. Well, you should have it anyway. You should have it in your email. I can't find the link to it right now, but I would love to have you join me inside that course. And I originally made that course for kids, but it has all the information you need as an adult or as an educator. So if you know of any kids or educators, especially people that work at aquariums or something, there, I found the link. It's christineelder.com/shark online course. And that is going to get you to the sales page, and it's only $25. But so if you want to learn a lot more about sharks, shark anatomy, shark biology, shark species, and if you want a lot more really cool demonstrations of how to draw them with different materials and in different positions and in different species, join that course. It's only $25 right now during Shark Week, but I will be raising that to $49 after Shark Week ends at the end of the month, which is coming up soon. So if you're watching, you can click on the link or click on the link in the email if you're on my email list at christineelder.com/shark online course. And so I'd love to have you join me, and I would love to see your sketches and see if you were able to follow along. I hope I went slowly enough. And if you did not have the materials, I encourage you to get them. They're all things that are really easy to get. And I've showed all of those to you, including my little sun icon. So it really helps me to have this little sun icon that I made to remind me where the sun's going to be. So remember again, if you just joined us and if you want to, get these materials, they're at any art store, a regular mechanical pencil, a fine tipped pen, a white pen, a charcoal pencils, ideally soft ones as well as hard ones, a little bit of sandpaper, or you can even use an emery board, but really fine sandpaper, fine grit sandpaper that you can get at a lumber store. The very finest grit that even almost feels just like paper, not the gritty stuff that normally they sell, but what we call like 600 grit, which is very, very fine. And it makes very fine powder, which is really easy to make into that stuff that you brush on. So then you'll have a regular old brush, and you can experiment with different sizes of brushes and different stiffnesses of brushes to get that beautiful smooth application. And then the pencil eraser really helps. There are a few different kinds of these that are even sharper than this. I don't know where mine is, but they can lift really fine details. What else did I use? My blending stomps, and those come in different sizes. And then I also had a dry brush just to, clean off the edges because everything gets really fuzzy. So yeah, because I'm going to have to erase mine and have to clean mine up here. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for this tiger shark demonstration painted in charcoal. Hope you learned a little bit about the fabulous species called the tiger shark, which is among the biggest and fiercest top predators in the oceans. And I hope you learned a little bit to appreciate sharks and know that they have more to fear from us than we do from them. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.